This video builds on many core concepts presented in the previous video in this series. If you haven't seen it, the link is in the description section below. I define dive speed management as being comprised of two parts: ensuring you are at the correct dive start altitude and speed for the bombing technique you have worked out, and performing additional throttle adjustments as necessary during the dive to ensure your speed up bomb release is within the 50 km/h predetermined range we have discussed already. Let's tackle this first part. We've already covered these two factors in detail. Dive start speed is the third key factor affecting aircraft speed up bomb release, and the one ground attackers may neglect when starting their attack dive. But it must be as consistent as these other two to get consistent bombing accuracy. When you execute dive recovery, climb away, and turn around for that next pass, proactive throttle management gives you more control over the process. Increase or decrease power as needed to negotiate between your altimeter and airspeed indicator for a correct alignment of altitude and speed right before the start of the next dive. Your aircraft gets lighter with each pass as you shed bomb weight, and often there will be a big difference between the first dive and the last as far as how you're working the throttle. Ambient temperatures will also change your throttle management. In high temperatures, the aircraft will be less efficient when making turnarounds between attack dives, and sometimes it may be a bit of a struggle to get the aircraft back up to the required dive start altitude when ambient temperatures are above 25 degrees. Conversely, when temperatures are under 5 degrees, it's relatively easy to make that turnaround, but you're probably still going to have to be all over that throttle to keep from exceeding your dive start speed. Now let's talk about throttle management during the attack dive. The three primary reasons for incorrect bomb release speed are incorrect dive start altitude and/or incorrect dive start speed and incorrect horizontal distance from the target. And that last one causes the additional issue of a too steep or too shallow attack dive angle, and the fix for that requires adjusting the bomb release point, which is a topic outside the scope of this video, and we'll cover that in the future. And the reason why you might get one or more of these factors wrong in multiplayer is because even though you may have practiced them to perfection from the comfort of your offline practice mission, on multiplayer things often do not go as planned. You may find when it's time to start that dive, for any number of reasons like enemy player interference or a low cloud ceiling, these factors may be too high or too low. To mitigate those problems and get your bomb release speed in that speed range you need for accuracy, you can control your speed during the dive with the throttle. Throttle down if you're approaching that bomb release speed range too quickly, or throttle up if you're not accelerating fast enough. It's not a perfect panacea for all dive speed issues. There are limits for how much speed deficiency or excess it can correct, but it's fairly effective. With some practice, knowing how to anticipate speed issues and when to make adjustments and by how much will become second nature. Now let's go back to ambient temperature for a second. In high temperatures, you may need to increase throttle slightly during the dive, but the bigger problem is posed by low temperatures. Depending on the aircraft, dive speeds can increase a lot in cold weather, and you might have to make some pretty extreme throttle reductions to stay within your dive speed range. It's easy to practice and prepare two solutions for extreme ends of the ambient temperature spectrum, but the truth is all of these temperatures will exert a different effect on your aircraft speed. I work out attack dive techniques and practice missions with an ambient temperature setting in the mid-range of 15 degrees. In multiplayer, I check the ambient temperature if it's listed so I have an idea of what to expect in terms of aircraft performance during the attack and plan accordingly. One tip I want to throw out here about dive start altitude and speed is that when one of these is off and the other is also off, but in the opposite direction, it can balance out somewhat depending on the respective degree they diverge from the baseline. For example, if your optimal dive start altitude is 700 meters AGL with a dive start speed of 250 km/h, but your current altitude is only 600 meters AGL and your current speed is 300 km/h, you're probably good for that dive, although you will have less time to get lined up properly. Likewise, if you're at 800 meters AGL but your speed is only 200 kph, again, you're probably going to be okay speed-wise. So that is dive speed management in a nutshell. I consider this an advanced ground attack 102 topic because dive speed management is an additional task that further complicates technique execution by taking attention away from target lineup and dive angle. If you're not sufficiently practiced and have your shit together to the point you can do target lineup and get on the correct dive angle intuitively, throwing dive speed management on top of that would just make it harder to get an accurate drop. However, once you have successfully incorporated dive speed management into your low angle bombing technique, it will increase your accuracy exponentially. As always, thanks for watching. This is HVB. Peace out.